Set amid farms and a wildlife preserve, the Paducah Gaseous Diffusion Plant processes natural uranium into enriched uranium, the kind used as fuel in nuclear reactors or nuclear weapons. Since 1952, it's been operated for the federal government by private companies. Union Carbide was the first and ran the plant until 1984. Al Puckett worked there in the early years.
When we first started to work over there, well, they had the Geiger counters, you know, and if we worked in stuff, you know, and we got contaminated, well, we'd put our hands in the Geiger counter, and if it showed it was radioactive, we'd go wash it off, you know. And then later on, they took the Geiger counters out, and they told us, says, that stuff won't hurt you. Said it's harmless. Says it won't hurt you if you ate it. Said it wouldn't hurt you.
Joe Harding worked at the plant for 18 years, starting in 1952.
You were breathing this uranium hexafluoride enough that you accumulated a real bitter taste in your throat and mouth and a coat on your teeth.
He began speaking out before he died in 1980, recording an audio diary that his widow Clara and daughter Martha Alls have preserved.
My name is Joe Harding, and I'm 58 years old. I have a story that I think everyone in America should know about. I heard about the atomic energy plant that was being built at Paducah, Kentucky, and of course this was all new and strange to me and seemed to be important and patriotic and somewhat secret work. I was 31 years old at that time and weighed about 175 pounds. I was strong and healthy and tough and never been sick, and I could eat anything and it didn't bother me.
You haven't seen that, have you?
When was that taken?
The night he died.
Joe Harding began losing weight within months of starting work at the Paducah plant, and sores that would not heal crept up his legs.
And I said, honey, what's that on your ankles? And he said, I guess it's that stuff that I'm waiting in out there at the plant. It was hexafluoride is what it was.
Even up through the 1980s, Department of Energy investigators say that protection against radiation at the site was very inconsistent. Men walked through uranium dust on the floors and brushed it off the tables where they ate. Respirators weren't required. At one point, the company stopped providing work coveralls.
And when they took those away from us, well, we'd have to bring work clothes from home. And we'd work in that stuff, and we would get it all over us, and then we'd bring it home, and it'd be washed in the laundry. I told them I didn't like bringing that stuff home to be washed in the laundry with my kids' clothes and my wife's clothes. And the guy, the public relations people says, well, said, if you're really concerned, said you'd wash your clothes here at the washroom.
Union Carbide has not answered our requests for an interview about its management of the plant. Until the late 1970s, the plant also recycled spent reactor fuel, exposing workers to intensely radioactive plutonium, technetium, and neptunium. But the Paducah workers weren't told. A memo shows that officials feared they would demand extra hazardous duty pay. After a Washington Post report in February, the Department of Energy admitted that the plant had also secretly dismantled and milled scrapped nuclear weapons over the years, burying them on the grounds or storing them above ground, like the rusty uranium cylinders and other heaps of contaminated scrap. People who lived nearby knew even less than the workers. Energy Department investigators reported earlier this year that on some nights and overcast days, the plant vented radioactive steam and smoke from its stacks. They also found the plant dumped contaminated scrap and equipment near the wildlife reserve, where it was scavenged by workers there. Union Safety Officer Jim Keyes has worked at the plant since 1974 in areas where uranium was handled.
They would spill material on the floor. They take like a regular broom, just sweep it up, put it in a dumpster or garbage pail, and then I see them take fire hoses and wash the remaining spill out the door into a drainage ditch.
No official at the Paducah site would be interviewed, but an Energy Department spokesman, Walter Perry, visited from the regional office at Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
And we certainly want to get to the bottom of this. We want to determine what type of work was conducted here, because if there are things in our landfills and our classified burial grounds, we need to know that. The veil of secrecy was one that was very thick back in the Cold War.
Over the years Joe Harding worked at the plant, he continued to lose weight, unable to hold food down. Most of his stomach was surgically removed.
Then he began to have mutations from his joints, his fingers, his toes, his ankles, his elbows, his shoulder blades.
What do you mean mutations?
Where bone was actually growing through the flesh.
And finally, when the soreness got up near enough to the surface, I kind of dug in, and I found something kind of like a piece of fingernail sticking through there. And this was very, very painful, and I would trim it off back just about as deep as I could reach, and it would come back again.
As his health declined, Joe Harding spoke out more, and he began to keep records of other workers' cancers and early deaths.
You're a bold-faced liar, mister.
Yeah. Was you there?
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, you've been there, but was you there in 1950? Was you there in 52?
You're a liar.
Was you there in 52?
I ain't old enough.
So, well, that's good. So you don't know what happened back then.
No one knew until this document was released last year that plant officials were also tracking worker cancers and deaths, while denying there was any reason to worry.
Justice for our nuclear weapons workers is finally happening. The government is for a change on their side and not against them.
In April, Energy Secretary Bill Richardson announced he was reversing a decades-old policy of opposing the compensation claims of nuclear workers.
They are people who became ill after working with very hazardous materials under dangerous conditions.
Secretary Richardson has proposed that sick workers be paid a lump sum or reimbursed for their medical bills. But for some, the offer is too little, too late.
I think they ought to be held accountable and carried, and I'd like to see them be put on trial, and I hope they put them in prison, because a lot of my friends I know died from what they did. It was just like people was expendable, and our lives didn't have any value at all.
Well, I just hope that I have created some interest in people who will back up this effort to get proper government and state agencies into the plant.
By finding the beautiful roses, there are hidden in life's thorny branches. Of toil, pain, and cares, he lived the impossible dream and died with the hope that it would last forever.